Okay. Well, very good morning, guys. Okay. So last day, just giving you a gist of the things what we are going to discuss. So basically, so I just been explained you like what are we going to cover in our course? What are we going to cover in our course? So mainly it is ASP.NET Core is our course, and we'll be covering two things in this. What are the two things? One is ASP.NET 5, sorry, ASP.NET MVC 5 with .NET framework. The latest version is 4.8. And the second thing what we'll be covering is ASP.NET MVC Core 6 with .NET 6. .NET 6. Okay. So these are the two things what we'll be covering in this. So basically under this here, simply speaking, under this you will be having Web API, NT framework, and here you have Web API core and entity framework core. Yeah. So this is what I explained to you in the last session, like what we are going to learn. We'll be learning up all these things in our course. Okay. Now, coming back to our discussion. Yeah. Where I stopped it in the last class, I was just telling you about design patterns and architecture patterns. So what is design patterns? Is that your design pattern means it is a solution for a problem. A problem and a solution for a problem is what we call as a design pattern. So I repeat, design patterns means problems and the solutions to the problems are what we just call as design patterns. Okay. So, and the second thing is architecture patterns. Architecture patterns talks about what? Architecture pattern have a broad scope. Then a design pattern. Architecture pattern talks about the building of the whole application. It talks about building the whole application. And design pattern talks about the building the whole application or only a part. It just talks about only a part. Only a part means a big application. Under that, there is a problem in a particular part. And design pattern talks about only about that. I said you, like architecture pattern is like building a house. Architecture pattern is building a house. And design pattern is like a small problem while building a house. Like I said you, like when you're building a washroom, there'll be a waterproofing. Like what a seepage problem. So to resolve the seepage problem, what we do? Waterproofing is a solution for that. And that is what we call as a design pattern. Actually, yeah, actually, talking more about these design patterns, last day. Yeah, have a look. See, design patterns represent the best practice used by experienced. Yeah, design patterns represents the best practices used by experienced object-oriented software developers. Means the best practices means, right, that's what I said. Your problem came, and now they just tried a solution, and that worked out. I repeat, a problem came, and they tried a solution, and it worked out, and that is what we call as a design pattern. See, represent the best practices used by experienced object-oriented software developers. Design patterns are solutions to general problems that software developer faced during software development. These solutions are obtained by trial and error by numerous software developer over quite a substantial period. Means not like an immediate solution, like immediately came out, guys. They have tried and thought like, okay, this is the best solution. And afterwards, they just come out with this. Okay. Okay. They just tried with this for multiple MC. Today, suppose when we are facing the COVID, the market, the industry, the world has launched the vaccination for it. The vaccination did not come over a simple period of time. Today the virus came and tomorrow vaccine did not come like the vaccination came over a period of time. It has taken a lot of time to launch the vaccine into the market by doing a lot of trial and errors. So without doing the trial and errors, they cannot launch the vaccine in the market. Yes or not? Okay, it is not going to be possible for anything. Generally, this is the fastest vaccine what we got. Generally, any vaccine to evolve, it will take 2 or 3 years. For launching a vaccine in the market, it's generally a period of 2 or 3 years of time what they just require to launch a vaccine in the market. But it's the fastest vaccine what we got in the world. Okay, because the whole world is suffering. They launched the vaccine with not like much R&D on it. Like 100% R&D was not done on the vaccine. So the thing I'm trying to tell you is, solutions are not obtained immediately. For any problem, solutions are not obtained immediately. There should be a lot of R&D that should be done for giving you a solution. See, same way, these solutions are also obtained by trial and error by numerous software developers over quite a substantial period. Okay, next. Design patterns have been evolved over a long period of time and they provide best solutions to certain problems faced during software development. Learning this pattern helps unexperienced developers to learn software design in an easy and faster way. Design patterns are solutions to software design problems you find again and again in real world application development. Okay, as I said, these are just the solutions to the problems that we come across in the real world application development. And how these design patterns came into market? Last class I was just telling you about this, guys. The design patterns are designed by four people, and we call them as gang of four. Yeah. What is gang of four? Okay. In 1994, 4 authors, Eric Gamma, Richard Hell, Ralph Johnson, and John Visites, published a book titled Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software. They published a book, guys, mainly. And this book basically contains 2 parts in it. The book basically contains 2 parts in it, which initiated the concept of design patterns in software development. And these authors are collectively known as Gang of Four. We call them as Gang of Four. The book is divided into 2 parts. What is the first part? The first part explaining about the pros and cons of object-oriented programming. The first one talking about the pros and cons of object-oriented, advantages and disadvantages what we come across in object-oriented programming. And the second one is going to explain you the evolution of the 23 software design patterns. As I said to you in the last class, there are 23 design patterns in the industry. There are 23 design patterns in the industry. And the second part will talk about the evolution of the 23 design patterns in the market. Are you clear? So what is the title of the book? Design Patterns, Elements of Reusable Object-Oriented Software. And 2 parts in it. The first part covers you what? Pros and cons of design pattern. Pros and cons of object-oriented programming. And the second one talks about the 23 design patterns. There are totally 23 design patterns actually. These 23 design patterns, what I said to you, are divided into 3 categorizations. The 23 design patterns are divided into 3 categorizations. What are the 3 categorizations means? Yeah, have a look. Types of design patterns. As per the design patterns reference book, what are the design patterns, elements of reusable software reusable object-oriented software? There are 23 design patterns which can be classified into 3 categories. They're classified into 3 categories actually. Okay, what are they called? creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. They just call as creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. What are creational patterns? Creational pattern talks about object creations and all. Object creations and all. Say creational patterns. These design patterns provide a way to create objects while hiding the creation logic rather than instantiating object directly using new operator. Means basically these patterns talks about object creation, guys. All of you know object creation. How do you create an object? By using a new keyword. Yes or not? Object creation is done by using a new keyword. Okay. And here the creation pattern talks about creating an object without using a new keyword. It talks about creating an object without using a new keyword. Okay, this gives programmer more flexibility in deciding which objects needs to be created for a given use case. I'll tell you a little bit more on this. Basically, under creational patterns, we have 5 patterns, guys. Under creational patterns, we have 5. What is the first one? Abstract factory, builder, factory method, prototype, singleton. So what is the first one? Creates an instance of several family of classes. Builder separates object construction from its representation. Factory method creates an instance of several derived classes. Prototype, a fully initialized instance to be copied or cloned. Singleton, a class of which only a single instance can exist. What is this? Actually, all these patterns talks about the same thing here, object creation. Object creation. Whether you want to create one object for multiple classes, or whether you're just going to create a separate object for each class, or you directly going to create it, that's what. In this, for example, I'll just tell you one pattern here. I'll explain you one pattern, singleton pattern. What is singleton pattern? I have a class, guys. I have a class, and this class deals with a database. This class deals with a database. Whenever I create the instance of this particular class, it will open a connection with the database and starts working with the database. Careful listen. I have a class, and the class mainly deals with what? Database. Whenever I create the instance of the class, it will open a connection with the database. It will open a connection with the database and starts working with the database. Now, if I create multiple instances of the class, what will happen? Multiple connections are opened with the database now. Are you getting my point or not? When I create multiple instances of the class, what will happen? Multiple connections are opened with the database now. Are you clear? So what is my point here? I don't want multiple connections opened with the database, because the database is used by different people in the world. Not only my application, different applications will connect to the database, and so I don't want multiple connections to be opened, because servers also will have a limit, guys, in the number of connections. You open IRCTC website at morning 10 o'clock when the Tatkal reservation starts, the server don't respond. Yes or not? Why the server don't respond? Because all the people are trying to connect with the server at the same time. Okay, so I want to minimize the number of connections. To minimize the number of connections, which class is establishing? I have one class which is establishing the connection. So if I want to minimize the number of connections, I need to minimize the number of instances created for the class also now. Did you catch my point or not? I need to minimize the number of connections that are created for the class also. So I have a requirement like, for my class, only one instance should be created. Did you understand me or not? For my class, how many instances to be created? Only one instance. But generally, guys, if you define a public constructor in the class, can you minimize the number of instances created? Your class has a public constructor. Everyone can create the instance of the class. Can you restrict only one instance can be created now? Not possible now. You know, constructor. I defined a public constructor in the class now. So any number of instances can be created of now. But what is the real requirement? How many instances to be created for the class? Only one instance to be created. Okay. How do you do this? You know, watch. That is basically called as singleton pattern. We call that as a singleton pattern. How do you define? Look, if you recollect yourself, in the C# classes, you learned about types of constructors. There are 5 types of constructors basically. What are the 5? The first one is default constructor, parameterized constructor, yes or not, copy constructor, static constructor, and private constructor. When we talk about constructors, I listed you in the C# classes and also said you, there's a question in interviews. When you're asked about the types of constructors, you're required to explain 5 constructors basically. What are the 5? Default, parameterized, copy, static, private constructor. Now, might be, see, you know default constructor without any parameters, you know parameterized constructors, you know static, you know copy constructors. I shown you in your C# classes, you might be coming across. But generally when you come to private constructor, why do we define a private constructor is going to be a big question. Why do we have a private constructor is going to be a big question. Okay, listen guys, about a private constructor. Say, I have a public class, my class name is demo. Okay, now for this class, this is a public class. If I don't define a constructor, there will be a constructor. If I don't define a constructor, there will be a implicit constructor. And recollect, I already explained this point to you in the C# for all of you, and all of you who done C# must know this. What's it? Implicit constructors are always public. Implicit constructors are always public. So if I don't define any constructor, the constructor of the class is a public constructor, and you can create the instance of this class wherever you want. Correct or not? But what am I doing now? You know, I am writing a private constructor. Now tell me, can anyone create the instance of this class? Can anyone create the instance of the class? Not possible. Can anyone inherit this class? Not possible. No one can. See, basically, you recollect here 2 ways to consume a class. What are the 2 ways to consume a class? First one, inheritance. Second one, creating an instance. Yes or not? Once I define a private constructor in the class, even though your class is public, you cannot consume that class. No one can consume this class. No one can create the instance of the class. No one can inherit that class also. Both the 2 things are not possible now. Did you catch my point or not? Both the 2 things are not possible. So instance creation is not at all possible, as well as inheritance is also not possible. Are you clear? This is the first thing what I done. I defined a private constructor. So instance creation is completely restricted. Okay. Now you'll have a doubt here. Sir, without creating an instance, how can I call the methods in this class now? Suppose there is a method in this class, public, void, open. When I call this method, what should be the logic? You know, the logic is open the connection with database. Okay. Same way I have a method public void close. What will this method do? Closes the connection that is open. So 2 methods are there, but out of the class, do you have a chance to call the methods? 2 methods are there here. Both are public. But out of the class, do you have a chance to call the method? Answer my point. Yes or no? Louder. No, you can't call this method. Why, sir? Why you can't call? How you call here? Because the 2 methods are non-static. And non-static members can be called only by creating the instance. Instance creation is restricted by private constructor. Point clearer or not? So is it possible to call them? Not possible to call. So to call, what is required? Instance is required. Okay. Now my point is, how many instances I want to be created for the class? 1 only, guys. Multiple instance creation should not be possible. But right now, after defining this private constructor, instance creation itself is not possible. Are you clear? So now the next thing what I'm doing, you know, watch it guys. I'm going to declare demo obj is equals to null. I'm going to declare the variable of the same class, not initialized. So what is it? A variable. Uninitialized copy. Uninitialized copy of a class is called as variable of the class. So this is a variable. You declared it. Okay. Now I'm going to write a method in the class. Public static method, guys. So because this is a static method, we can call directly by fixing the class name now. So constructor restriction not there for this method now. Correct? And return type of the method is demo. And I am naming the method as create instance. Create instance. Okay. So watch what I'm writing. If obj is equals to null. Yeah, obj is null. Already we declared obj is null. Inside of it, I'm writing obj is equals to new demo. I'm creating the instance of it. And then I'm saying return obj. Return what? Obj. Means if the instance is not created, create and return. If the instance is already created, directly return. Simple, huh? If the instance is not created, create it and then return it. If instance is already created, return it directly. That's it, now. So this is what I defined. Now, guys, you know that for this class, multiple instance creation will not be done. For this class, multiple instance creation will not be done. What I mean is, watch. Is another class, name is test. Here I have a main method, static void main. What is my requirement here? You know, I wanted to create the instance of demo and call the methods open and close. But tell me, is this possible? Demo obj is equals to new demo. Is this possible? Tell me. This is not possible. Why not possible? Because the constructor is private constructor. The constructor is then allowed out. So then how to create the instance, sir? Watch it. How to create the instance, you know? Demo obj is equals to demo dot create instance. You're calling this method. The method is static. So I can prefix the class and call now. And second thing, public. I can call it from anywhere. Demo dot create instance. So the control comes here. What is it checking now? Obj is null. Yeah. Obj is null. What is happening? Creating the instance. Returning that. And now you got the reference to that. This is your obj. Alright, names doesn't matter here. You give whatever names you want. Otherwise, if you're confused with the same name, I am giving the name as a D. Are you clear? Now D is going to be your obj. Now D is going to be your obj. Now using D, can I call the methods open and close or not? Yes or not? Now tell me, guys, how many times you call this method? How many times you call the method? Call this. It will return you the instance. Means what exactly it returns? You know, it returns you a reference to that instance. It returns you a reference to that particular instance. How many instances created? One only. Why? Because I put a condition in the code there. What condition? If instance is not created, only create. If instance is created, don't create. Return the same. Return the same. Now you call it for 100 times also. What is created? You know, 100 references are created, not instances. How many instances? One only. But how many references? 100, 1000, million, any number you create. But instance will be one only. So this is called as singleton pattern. Did you understand my point here? Means, are we using the new keyword to create the instance now? That is what. That's what I said you here. Read this again. These design patterns provide a way to create objects while hiding the creation logic is not known to me, guys. I called a method. What is the method? Create instance. What is the logic? How do I know? I don't know. Rather than instantiating objects directly using new keyword. This gives program more flexibility in deciding which objects needs to be created for a given use case. Okay. Under this only 5 patterns are there. What are the 5? Abstract factory, builder, factory method, prototype singleton. See guys, I said to you yesterday, my discussion is not about design patterns. I was only giving you an overview for you to understand the design patterns. If at all you want to learn, if you're interested in learning the design patterns, just Google for each and every design pattern and try to understand. Don't worry about all the things. First start with one pattern, abstract factory. Try to understand it. Take at least a week of time. Try to understand it. Prepare a detailed notes of it. Then go to and the pattern and try to learn about it. Okay. The instance variable should also be static and private, sir. And we are accessing this variable in static. Oh, sorry. That is private only. I made a mistake. That is private only. I made a mistake. I should write it as static. Why should I write it static? Because we already know now, non-static members of a class cannot be accessed in a static block. Okay. So this should be declared as static. Thanks, Venkatesh. Yeah, it is private only. The default scope of every member is private. Even though I don't write private, that is private. Okay. But I just forget I missed this one. Static. Okay. Anyhow, it's private only. Static. And we can access it because in C# you learned what is it? Non-static members of a class cannot be accessed directly from static blocks. So that's why this also should be declared as static here. Okay. Yeah. I missed that point. So fine. So are you clear? So try to know or learn about these particular patterns. Okay. Try to search for abstract factory. Don't be hurried. That's what I'm telling you. Take at least 4 or 5 days to understand about it in detail. Use multiple websites, multiple examples. Try to prepare notes on yourself to understand about the abstract factory. Then go to build a pattern. Then go to factory method. Then go to prototype. Singleton I explained you. Try to just check out the use cases where we use the singleton patterns. So this is the first one. What is that? Creational pattern. So 3 different categorizations are there. The first category, creation pattern. What is the second category? Structural pattern. The second category is a structural pattern. What is structural pattern? These design patterns concern classes and object compositions. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define ways to compose objects to obtain new functionalities. What is that? Actually, guys, the structural pattern basically talks about how to implement your code, how to implement your particular code. For example, one example for a structural pattern is, like, see, using inheritance in your applications, basically that just comes under a structural pattern. The best example is exception class. Exception. Under exception, you have 2 different categorizations now. What are the 2? Application exceptions, system exceptions. What are application exceptions? Application exceptions means these instances are created and thrown by developers. Nothing but we. System exceptions. Those instances are created and thrown by exception manager, which is a part of your CLR. Means they are implicitly created and thrown. If you try to divide a number by 0, exception is thrown. Who throws? Developer throws. Developer doesn't throw. Who throws? Exception manager. Remember the .NET runtime. In the runtime we have CLR. In the CLR we have exception manager. Various components in the CLR. There is an exception manager. Exception manager will throw you the instance basically. Okay, we call them as system exceptions. For example, yeah. Is the CLR architecture. Here we have, whenever a runtime error occurs in the code, what will exception manager do? Exception manager identifies the error. Exception manager creates the instance of the class related to the error, and exception manager creates the instance and throws it. First identify, create the instance, throw the instance. Once the instance is thrown, what will happen? Abnormal termination. Yes or not? Okay. So Second option, application exception. In application exception, what will happen? Developer throws the exception, exception manager throws the exception. Developer throws the exception. I said you an use case for you also. See, in an application, guys, the divisor value should not be 0. In a mathematical application, the divisor value should not be 0. Is it a special rule for you and me, or it is a universal rule? That universal. That is a universal rule. It's not like going to be a special rule for you or me. That is a universal rule. What is that? A divisor cannot be 0. Correct? Now, there is a requirement from the client now. What is the requirement, you know? In a mathematical application, the divisor value should not be odd number. The divisor value should not be odd number. Tell me, is it a universal rule? Is it a universal rule? No. This is client requirement. Point clearer or not? This is client requirement. So what should happen if the divisor value is an odd number? Listen, if the divisor value is an odd number, what should happen? An exception should be thrown. An exception should be thrown. And remember, guys, your system will not do that. Who has to write the logic? You need to write the logic in your code. So when you're implementing the logic, we just implement the condition explicitly. What? Suppose if you're capturing the divisor value in a variable called y. You are capturing the divisor value in a variable called as y. How do you write? If y mod 2 is greater than 0. Y mod 2 greater than 0 means odd number. Y mod 2 greater than 0 means odd number. So what you require to do here? Create the instance of exception class. And second thing, what you do? Throw that instance. So these are called what? Application exceptions. Like two different categorization: system, application. Next, under application exception, I said you, no classes are defined under application exception here. You are going to define your own classes accordingly under application exception. But when you come to system exception, there are so many predefined classes: null reference exception, divide by 0 exception, overflow exception, index out of range exception, file not found exception, lot, hundreds of classes are there. Okay. But what is the parent class of all the classes? Exception. We're talking about exception classes. What is the parent class of all exception classes? Exception. You're right, guys. What is the parent class of all the classes? When I ask this question, object is the right answer. My question is wrong. What is the parent class of all exceptions? Exception. When I ask the question, what is the parent class of all the classes? What is the answer? Object. That's the right answer. If I say what is the parent class of all the exceptions, then what is the answer? Exception. And on the top of the exception again, object will be there. Yes or not? Now see, you are decomposing the classes. What is decomposing? You're splitting. First, we defined one class called exception. Under that, application exception, system exception, different classes you defined. Means without writing the code in one class, you divided them into different classes. That's called decomposing. You are splitting them. You are splitting them and defining them under multiple classes. Did you understand my point? Finally, can you catch an exception like this, guys? Can you catch all the exceptions in your code like this? Can you catch all the exceptions in the code like this? Yes or not? Come on. Possible or not? Yes, it is possible, na? Why? This is parent. Parent can catch anything in it. And afterwards, one thing what they done. What is it? I wanted to print the error message. Suppose I'm writing console.writeLine ex.message. When I call ex.message, suppose say in your code, divide by 0 exception came now. Ex.message will print you the error message associated with divide by 0, correct? Yes or not? Format exception came in the code. Ex.message will print you the error message associated with format exception. Okay? Overflow exception thrown. Ex.message will build you the error message associated with overflow exception. Yes or not? Understand, guys? This is the idea. See, the concept is like, even though there are multiple classes defined for you with different error messages, you can catch everything by using one class and print the error messages by using one property. Why? They're defined in such a way. First exception is a parent. Message is a virtual property in the class. Because it is a virtual property, when I call ex.message, dynamic polymorphism comes into picture, calling child class property, not parent class. Not the parent class. I explained all these things for you in the C# classes, guys. And this style of building an application is what comes under structural pattern. These design pattern concern classes and object compositions. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define way to compose objects to obtain new functionalities. Child classes will be there with new functionalities, but everything is handled by one class on the top. What is that? Parent object. That is exception. That will take care of all the things to you. And that's what we just call as structural patterns. And under structural patterns, all these things will come. What? Adapter, bridge, composite, decorator, facade, flyweight, proxy. Flyweight and the proxy, all will come for you under the structural patterns. And finally, the third categorization is called as what? Behavior pattern. It's called as a behavior pattern. We call this a behavior pattern. And what is the behavior pattern? These design patterns are specially concerned with communication between objects. How the objects are going to communicate with each other. How the objects are going to communicate with each other is what we call as the behavior pattern. Okay. How the objects are going to communicate with each other is what we call as the behavior pattern. Okay. In this also, we have different patterns here that are available here. So, what are behavioral patterns means? It talks about communication between objects. What is the communication between objects? I'll show you one thing here. Iterator. If you just understand about this iterator, like if you just know for each loop, how the for each loop works. For each loop doesn't require to have, you don't require to specify the initialization. You don't require to specify the condition. You don't require to specify the iteration. Yes or not. You don't require to specify any of these particular things. So actually, there is a concept called iterator. So if these iterators means iterators are explicitly written in the class, we write these iterators in the class. We cannot use for each loop on everything. You can use for each loop on an array. You can use for each loop on a collection. You cannot use for each loop wherever you want here. You can use for each loops on arrays. You can use for each loops on collections. So basically, if at all you wanted to use a for each loop on an array, in that array class, first they should define something called as iterator. They should define something called as iterator. If that iterator is available only, for each loop works on that. If that iterator is available only, for each loop works on that. Actually, guys, to understand about this iterator, in my collection videos, I just demonstrated that in one video, guys. Let me tell you, you can watch that video. Just a second. I don't remember the exact video. Just for comparisons. Yeah, about iterator. I have video, guys. Video number 52 in my YouTube videos. The video number 52. Okay, for online students, I'm posting the link here. I'm posting the link here. For offline students, you know my YouTube videos. In the videos, video number 52, demonstrating you how iterations will happen for you within your class. We just require to define something called as iterator, enumeration. Like if at all you want a for each loop to work on anything, how do you do that? I just defined a video on that. The video number 52 in my collections video. Just have a look on that. Okay. Otherwise, by default, for each loops will not work on everything. If a for each loop has to work on your class, what should be there? There should be an iterator defined inside of it. Okay. So that is called like this. We have some design pattern here called as a iterator pattern. If you use that iterator pattern, that comes under the behavior pattern. If you define an iterator, that comes under a behavior pattern. Okay. Guys, few things, not 100% all the things, but few things in our classes, I will show you about different design patterns used in different locations. Are you clear? Okay. So one very well used design pattern in the industry. What is that? I'll show you practically in my applications, guys. Forgot the name of it, but I'll just show you how practical implementation can be done for that particular design pattern in the code. MVVM, I'll show you. MVVM is an architecture. It's not a design pattern. Dependency injection. There is a very popular design pattern called as a dependency injection. What is the dependency injection? I'll tell you. MVVM is an architecture. I'll talk about MVVM also. I'll show you MVVM as well as one very popular design pattern that uses in the industry, which talks about object creations only, which talks about the object creations. I will object creations and behavior. Object creations and the behavior. Okay, both the two things it will cover. Creation of objects it will cover you, as well as behavior also it will cover you. Both the two things will come for you. Okay, I will show you the design pattern for you in the application development. Practically, how do you do that and what is the advantage and how it makes the developer's job easy, we'll talk about that. Okay, so that's what. So point finally, I wanted to conclude with the design patterns is the point finally I want to conclude with design patterns is design pattern is not about building a application. See here, we talked about one design pattern here, singleton. Is the single class going to build your application? Huh? Array, this class is only a part of my application, guys. Are you getting me or not? Means I used a design pattern here. What pattern? Singleton pattern. It is only part of my application. Exception handling is only a part of your application now. There we have one pattern. And the singleton is one part of the application. That there we have used one pattern. So these design patterns not talking about building the application. They talk only about a small part of your application. It talks only about the small part of the application. Who talks about building an application? Who talks about building an application? That's what I said to you in the last class. What patterns? Architectural patterns. Architectural patterns talks about building an application. They talk about, they have a broad scope. They talk about building an application basically. An architectural pattern is a general, reusable solution to a commonly occurring problems in software architecture within a given context. They are like software design patterns only, but have a broader scope. They are going to have a broader scope compared with the design patterns. Software application architecture is a process of defining a structured solution that meets all the technical and operational requirement while optimizing common quality attributes such as performance, security, and manageability. All these things will be taken into consideration. When you're building an application, you need to think about the performance of the application. You're required to think about the security of the application. And third one is manageability. What is manageability? Manageability in the sense, future modifications. future modifications. Means you should be in a position to implement the changes in that without stopping the application. Without stopping the application. That is what we call as manageability. Okay. It involves a series of decisions based on a wide range of factors, and each of these decisions can have considerable impact on the quality, performance, maintainability, and overall success of the application. The architecture pattern addresses various issues in software engineering such as computer hardware performance limitations, high availability, and minimization of business loss and cost. See guys, who decides the architecture? Who decides the architecture of an application? A developer? Tell me. A developer? A software engineer decides the architecture of an application? Not a software engineer, guys. It's a high level. The architect. The architect. For every company, there will be a architect on the high level before you start writing the code. See, writing the code takes a lot of time. But before you start writing the code, there is a lot of decision making that has to be done for writing the code. You know that? See, there is a building to be constructed here. Otherwise, let us leave it. You build a house or you build a software. Both are same only. Both are same only. You have a place. You have some land. You want to build a house. Like today night, when you're sleeping, you thought like you want to build a house in that land now. Tomorrow morning, are you going to start it? Tell me. You have a lot of money with you, but can you start it tomorrow morning? It's not going to be possible. Money is not only the factor here. Money is not only the factor here. There are a lot of parameters that we require to decide first. We need to go to an architect. After going to an architect, we should show the plan of the land, the locations, and all the things. Based on that, a lot of things are there for us in our Indian mythology to build a house. What's it? We just follow some vastu. Yes or not? What should be built where? We need to get a clear clarity first. Understood me? Okay. So a lot of parameters. Yeah. We'll provide the links, Savannah. We'll provide the links. The introduction classes videos will be given. Don't worry. Okay. A lot of parameters we just take into considerations here. And all those parameters put together, we start. It's not like one single day you go to an architect, take a decision, and just start the house building. You go to an architect gives a plan now. After that, you think of it. You show the plan to others. Okay, you sit with your family, you discuss, and now you get new ideas. You get new ideas. Why like this? If at all we build a house like this, it will be good. Yes or not? You get new ideas. You show the plans to your friends, your family members. They may be giving new ideas. Ideas cannot be implemented off. Again, you require to go to the architect and ask him, this is my idea. Can I use it? Then he will tell, possible, not possible. Is it according to Vastu? Not according to Vastu? Is it according to the municipal authorities plan approval? That also should be taken. You have a small land of 50 yards and you wanted to build a 5-story building now. Government will not give the permission for that. Yes or not? Permissions cannot be obtained for that. So all these things, lots of parameters should be taken up into consideration. It's not going to be happening in a single day. It doesn't happen in a single day. We think a lot. Even though we have money, for everything we think about the cost factor also. If we build like this, what will be the cost? Yes or not? You want to go for an underground parking. You want to build an underground parking without leaving the parking. You want to go for underground parking. Underground parking, if you go, the architect will tell you, if you go for underground parking, you're required to dig and you're required to build from that. The cost will be more. If you build a normal floor if it is going to be 100 rupees, if you go for underground floor, it will be 150 to 200 rupees. That cost factors, all the things. We decide on all the parameters and finally we come to a conclusion. Okay, this is how we are going to go. And then we start the work. And then also it is not going to be correct. Then also lots of changes going forward. Lots of changes will come now. Yes or not? So that is the duty of who? Architect. So exactly in the application development also, tomorrow when you get a contract for developing an application from a client, It is not like you and me sitting, 2 developers or 3 developers sitting together. Array, tomorrow we'll start building this application, and they cannot decide of like that now. The high level discussions will go on, like the architects. Okay, now and here the DBA comes into picture, the database, how the database can be maintained. Lot of people, all the high level people sit together and decide with a architecture. And after deciding with an architecture, they start doing this. Okay, let's build in this architecture, they start. Afterwards, again in the middle, lot of complications will come, lot of decision makings will be done, changes will be done, lot will happen. It's not going to be easy. Are you clearer? Okay, so basically in the high level, who decides the architecture? The architect. There will be an architect, project managers, architect, project leads, database administrators. All these people sit together and come out with a architecture. Okay, let us follow this architecture for the application, and then they start building the applications. So various different architectures are there in our in the industry now today, like what? Blackboard system, broker pattern, event-driven architecture. Event-driven architecture, you know this? Best example is your web forms, guys. Events. You click on buttons, drop down selection. These are all event-driven architecture. That is called implicit invocation, layers. Layers also this popularly used architecture in the industry, guys. Generally, they divide the application into different layers. Presentation layer, business logic layer, data logic layer. Like this, they divide the applications and develop it. Microservices. This is one very popular thing what is being used in the industry today. Next, MVC. That is the architecture what we are going to learn. Okay, there same way we have presentation abstraction control, MVP, model view, presenter, MVVM, model view, view model. And I promised you, see, we are going, our course is this one, guys, but I promised you I'll show you model view, view model also in the MVC. How to integrate that I'll show you. NT component system, multi-tier architecture are also called 3-tier architecture. You might be hearing about this 3-tier. The best example, your ATM machines are 3-tier application. Web applications are 3-tier. Web applications are 3-tier. What are the 3-tier? See, minimum 3 systems will be participating in completing a work. Minimum 3 systems will be participating in completing a work. You go to ATM machine. That is the first machine where you go. Am I correct? When you try to do any transaction, that will contact a server called application server, where on the application server your logic executes, and that application server in turn connects to database server, where the data is going to be stored. Okay, minimum 3, maximum can be more than 3 also. Suppose if this ATM card belongs to any other bank, ATM card belongs to any other bank, you're required to contact another server now, a third party server. Visa or Master, you're required to contact. Means 4 systems coming into action to complete the transaction now. So this is what we call as 3-tier or entire. Naked objects, operation data source, peer-to-peer, pipe and filter, service-oriented architecture, space-based architecture. Like this, all this list will come for you under architectural patterns. Is my point clear, all of you? Yes or not? So did you understand the difference between design and architecture patterns? Design patterns are different, architecture patterns are different. First, what we have? First, which one comes into picture? Design or architecture? Louder. Architecture. First, what comes into picture? Architecture. After architecture pattern comes into picture, the second thing under that we'll be using design patterns. Under that we will be using the design patterns in the application. There are 2 different options here. Just you find out SOA is different, service oriented architecture and microservices are different concepts. Means some similarities are there, but not 100%. Some similarities will be there, but not 100% only. Okay. So you just try to find out the things. I cannot go deep into all the things in the given time. In a given time, I cannot talk about each and everything, and that is out of scope also. Talking, if I tell about each and every architecture here, minimum 1 year is required for me to complete this course now. I can talk about each and we just to go with one architecture, follow that. That's all. See, you want to do engineering, you decided you want to do computer sciences, and you go that. That's all. You cannot do each and everything. I want to do computer engineering, I want to do mechanical engineering, I want to do civil engineering. Array, your lifetime will not be enough to complete your engineering now. Yes or not? And don't think more on each and everything. What you want, stick to that. Tomorrow you want something else, then only concentrate on the other one. Is my point clear? Okay, so don't try to go off into each and everything. So you initially with it, what is this? What is this? Will you have an enthusiasm? But going forward, we become mad understanding all those things. So don't try to put your foot on multiple things. Are you clear? Stick to one. Be perfect in that. Stick to one, be perfect in that particular area only. So tomorrow, if there's a requirement for another thing, so there is some requirement for you somewhere where you want to go for using entity component system, then focus on what is entity component system, focus on that, then don't deviate yourself to other things. First, architects will design, developer, who is that? Hunter developer. Who mostly use design or architecture patterns. Say, architect will decide architectural pattern first. The architect of the company will decide which architecture should be followed for the application. Decided now, application development is going on. When application development is going on, problems will come. Then generally, team leaders, project leaders will decide what design pattern can be applied there. Are you clear? Put your name here. What is that? Hunter developer. You put something. Okay, put a proper name. So do you catch my point? So first, architect will decide which architecture to be used for the application. Are you clear? And afterwards, okay, fine. Next time when you log in, put your name there, Anand. Okay? Yeah. Architect will decide later. Architect will decide first. I'm sorry. What architecture to be followed? Now application development is going on following this architecture. Problems come now. For everything, you don't go to architect again now. Your team leader will be able to help you. Your project lead will be able to help you. Follow this particular design pattern here so you can resolve the problem. Understood my point? Architecture will be in a broad scope and design will be in a smaller scope. That's how you decide this. Okay, guys, these are the two things what we have about the design and the architecture patterns. What I just want to give you a gist of both the two things now. Now, let us fully focus on the MVC model view, controller, and what exactly is it. Okay, so I want to wind up here. Tomorrow, I will give you a complete clear picture. What is model, what is view, what is controller. So tomorrow's class will be very, very important for us to understand what is a model, what is a view, what is a controller, what do we write under each and every of these particular things. Is that clearer? Okay, let's wind up here. We'll meet tomorrow understanding about what exactly is model, view, and controller. Okay, any questions? Let me know. Otherwise, you can leave the session. You meet tomorrow. Okay. Yes, Amit, we are done for today. And tomorrow also, it still will be talking about all these things. What is a model? What is a view? What is a controller? Deeply, one by one. It takes at least another 3 days to start programming. The session will be between 7 to 8:30. Between 7 to 8:30. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it can happen like that. But by 8:30, we'll stop. Between 7 to 8:30, Shabana. Sometimes you may join late, I may join late, anything can happen. Yeah, ASP.NET Web Forms is completely different hidden. It is completely different. It's not covered here. Okay. Recordings will be given only for introduction classes. Solid principles will not come for you. They will not be covered. That's what I'm telling you. You want to learn solid principles, you need to learn on your own. But we don't teach each and everything in the classroom. You want solid principles, someone wants something that cannot be covered. Okay. You just try to learn on yourself. That's all. We will give you the basic things for you for application development. Suresh, duration 2.5 months. Hmm. Hmm. Multi-level, multiple. Hmm. ఏం వాడో ఎవరు? ఇన్స్టాన్సెస్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకోవాలి అంతే క్లాసెస్కి, లేదా ఇంటర్ఫేసెస్ వాడాలి. చదవండి సరిగ్గా ఇంటర్ఫేస్ అంటే ఏంటో, లేకపోతే వీడియోస్ చూడండి, వీడియోస్ ఉన్నాయి. Who is our batch admin? Not decided, Sriman. Not decided. When will that class will start after finishing this class? No, mostly hidden next week. Next week, not next week. The coming week, there is a plan for starting web forms. No, ASP.NET web forms is outdated here. It's not going to be covered. And we are going to have an ASP.NET web forms batch mostly in the next week. That will be the last ASP.NET web forms. I'll announce in the classroom. If anyone wants to attend, you can attend. That will be the last web forms batch, because that is outdated, and we are also stopping of the course completely. We are stopping that course. One and only one batch. The last batch will be conducted next week. Sunil, the management will contact you. Don't worry. I will send the notes, Ramakrishna, I'll send the notes. Yes, every company follows some designs and patterns. Mostly used design, mostly used architecture is MVC. Please tell me how to build logic. Logic is something what should be improvised based on a practice. That's all. No one can teach you logic. I just simply, I don't support that teaching logic. Logics cannot be taught, guys. It is completely, you need to learn based on your continuous practicing only. Venkatesh Raju, you must know HTML, JavaScript and CSS also. You must know HTML, JavaScript and CSS also. Angular 13, when it starts, I'll tell you, hidden. ASP.NET Web Forms is an outdated concept. We are not going to have it. This will cover only MVC. This will cover only MVC. Web Forms is not covered. That's what I said, Anand. We are going to have one last batch for ASP.NET Web Forms in the coming week. I will announce. If you want, you can join for that. But that's not a part of it. You're required to pay separate fees for that. Who is building console applications now? Who is building desktop applications? Yeah, 75% of the applications in the industry are web only. What 70, 80%? 70, 80% of the applications are web only.